All right, so what affects weathering? There are four factors that affect the rate at which weathering occurs. Climate, of course, is the number one factor. If you're in a tropical region, the type of weathering that you're going to experience would be chemical weathering. Chemical weathering is one of those that uses hydrolysis, oxidation, acid precipitation. So climate is a big one there. If you're in a more arid area, then of course you're going to end up with a physical or mechanical type of weathering. So climate's number one. The second is going to be rock type and composition. The type of rock is going to determine what type of weathering is taking place as well, because if I'm in an arid climate and it's a sedimentary rocks are more resistant to weathering in an arid climate. In contrast, igneous and metamorphic rock, a lot of times they will weather and break down much faster through mechanical processes versus having sedimentary rocks, which of course would be very resistant to that type of weathering. All right, so surface area is going to be another one. Okay, as you see here in the picture, if you ever go down to a river, you can see there's a big outcrop here of rock, and a lot of times, as you can tell here, it busts open, and you can see here this has been some frost action taking place here, ice wedging. There's been some abrasion take place in the floodwaters. But the more surface area being exposed to the atmosphere, the more that you see a big type of so the more surface area, the more the more weathering taking place. And then of course topography. If it's on a very steep sloped area like this, the water is going to move much swifter down it, and it's going to break it up even more. So we have weathering. Now we're going to erosion. And of course, erosion is the removal of sediment by natural processes. And there are four agents of erosion. Okay? There are four agents of erosion. Wind, of course, is going to move sediment naturally. Okay, so it's an agent of erosion. Remember, erosion's removing sediment. Water is going to be another agent of erosion. The next one, of course, would be ice, which would be glaciers. And we're going to talk a little bit about glaciers here in just a moment. And then, of course, gravity. You have your mudslides, your rock slides. Anything on a slope is going to be removed due to gravity. Going back to glaciers just a moment, I want you to think of glaciers as being nature's bulldozer. A glacier is very destructive. You think of how hard ice is. Ice is very rigid, and as it moves down a valley, like an alpine glaciation, it's going to cut out that mountain. Okay, rock is going to be broken up very quickly by glaciers. So glaciers just when they move, and they move slowly, but when they actually move, they just take a mountain out. Okay, so alpine glaciation is a big thing. And here are some types of erosion. You can see how a river cuts out a V-shaped valley here. You'll see that. If you're on the coast area, you can see how waves erode, and of course you have that taking place. You can see here where the wind is blowing topsoil. We'll talk about the Dust Bowl a little bit later, but You know, if you plow up land and there's a great drought taking place, then you're going to have a big time loss of topsoil. And then here's nature's bulldozer again, the glacier. Okay, and then of course we have rock slides and things of that, and that would be a gravity example. So once again, what erosional force would create this U-shaped valley? And you can see this U shape here. We just talked about it. I'll give you a hint. It's nature's bulldozer. Okay, what is nature's bulldozer? What would cut out this U-shaped valley? And the answer, of course, is a glacier. So the difference between a glacial valley and a river valley is very simple, and you can see that here. A V-shaped valley in this animation, a V-shaped valley is cut out by a river, but when a glacier comes in, it cuts out that distinct U shape there. Okay, and you can see that. So as you see this coming in, so what you should write down in your notes is this. Rivers cut out a V-shaped valley. So write that down. Rivers cut out a V-shaped valley. And below that, you need to write glaciers cut out U-shaped valleys. Okay? And you can see that here in this illustration. Again, rivers cut out V-shaped valleys and glaciers cut out U-shaped valleys. So which is which? Which one would be cut out by a glacier? The one on the left or the one on the right? And the answer to this would be the one on the right. This is the U-shaped valley. And a lot of times when the glacier melts, it leaves a lake, right? Think of the Great Lakes there. The Great Lakes that are, you know, in northern part of United States and the northern states there. The Great Lakes were left there by the last glaciation. This, of course, is a V-shaped valley, which would be a river on the left here. All right, so after weathering breaks down rocks, you know, it breaks it down into sand, silt, and clay, and then erosion moves them, okay, then you end up with deposition, and the deposition could be the piling up or the compiling of sediment. Okay, so deposition occurs. So, based on that, what type of depositional feature is shown in the picture? Would this be a water deposit here? Would this be a glacial deposit? Or would this be a wind deposit? What would this be right here? Okay, I'll give you a hint. It was left behind by nature's bulldozer. I want you to imagine. What was nature's bulldozer? That would be a glacier. Okay? Think of this. Big, you know, the glacier just scours up and it piles up dirt, okay, rock, dirt, and all this, and then it melts. And all it does is leave it all left behind here in one big pile. Okay? So you can see that. So that's a glacial deposit. This, of course, would be a what type of deposit? What type of deposit would leave this? This would be a wind deposit. This is a sand dune, and it's very popular out west to go four-wheeling on, and a lot of outdoor activities, you know, do that. But wind piles up sand, and of course a sand dune is not, and here's the reason why I say this. Sand dunes do not represent erosional surfaces. They are depositional features, okay? And of course dunes are on the coast as well, but so this is a wind deposit. And last but not least, this of course would be a delta. Okay, this is an aerial photo of the Mississippi Delta, and this of course would be, if it's the Mississippi Delta, this is a water deposit. And you need to make sure you know the difference between all of the features here that I've shown you. But this right here, of course, if it looks like a turkey's foot, and you got to think of how the SOL test will be. It'll be in black and white. If it looks like a turkey's foot, that is a delta, and this is when a river flows into a larger body of water, such as an ocean, and it loses, deposition occurs after the erosional force loses its ability to carry the sediment. Okay, so this right here, of course, is a water deposit. We will go to part 2 next.